No one knows how the 2025 NRL season is going to go, except for me. It's that time of year for me to put my rugby league balls on the line and predict another wild, wacky NRL season where we guess who improves and who the bed, while ultimately the same four teams are at the top of the ladder every single year. 2025 is shaping up as another exciting season where it feels like every team has a reasonable argument as to why they could make the top 8, but also find themselves near the bottom if things go really wrong. At least outside the top 2, and I know we all know who I'm talking about. Now, we could start with the premiers, but as I did just allude to, that would be boring. So who comes last in 2025? That is a bit of a hard one, and there's only one team I could find an argument for, and it makes me the biggest heel in the rugby league internet. My tip for the Wooden Spoon is unfortunately the Dolphins, the year after they move on from Wayne Bennett. I have been all aboard the Dolphins hype train in their first 2 seasons in the NRL, as I think a lot of us have been. But Wayne Bennett, ever since he was appointed as the head coach of the Dolphins in the final quarter of 2021, as well as through 2022 in their recruiting, and even the last 2 years as they've overachieved, that whole entire club has been built around Wayne Bennett, both on field and off field. Hammer is going to be great, as he always is. Katoa is a very exciting half if you're a Dolphins fan, but out of all the teams that are improving in 2025, the Dolphins are just one of the few that I can't see improving at all. Tom Gilbert will be a massive inclusion. He is one of the best middle forwards in the competition when he is on, but they signed this experienced forward pack when they came into the competition, and the unfortunate truth is when you get an experienced forward pack, it's not too long until they're pretty much just old and washed. I would love for the Dolphins to prove me wrong, and Christian Wolf has done a great job with Tonga, so maybe he is the coach to buck the trend, but Wayne Bennett has a curse of when he leaves teams, and after what South Sydney did in 2023 and 2024 that ended with Jason Demetrio being sacked, I just can't see how the Dolphins are any better than South Sydney were. In fact, I think they're completely different ends on the ladder. It's been a really successful first couple years for the Dolphins, and I think they're going to be taking a step back in 2025. They've got a ton of money in their salary cap before they can push back up to fighting for a final spot in the future. We all admit it's sad, but in rugby league and pretty much every single sport, there's nothing we love to talk about more than someone potentially losing their jobs. And I do have one head coach getting sacked. It's pretty much a guarantee every single NRL season. I can't see too many on the chopping block, at least for me and the teams I think are going to do well this year. I have one coach getting sacked, and it might be a bit controversial, but I'm going Adam O'Brien. I think the Newcastle Knights are in for a very rough 2025 off the back of back-to-back finals appearances though, and the strong start Adam O'Brien has actually had to the start of his coaching career. I don't think the Newcastle Knights should let him go, even if they do finish as low as 16th, where I have them predicted to. But it's just not a great roster on paper. You chuck in the fact it seems that the Newcastle Knights have been wanting to get rid of O'Brien for the last couple years, only for him to get the best out of that roster and sneak their way into finals, mainly off the back of Kalen Ponga putting back-to-back stretches of incredible form together as we enter the later part of the NRL season. And look, KP may very well be capable of having a 2021 Turbo, a 2009 Jared Hayner, a 2019 James Tedesco type of season. Unfortunately, I just don't think his supporting cast is very good. Bradman Best is a top 5 centre, but there's all these rumours as the Newcastle Knights have brought in a new head of football staff, and there's all these talks about guys like Brayley getting moved on, Saifidi, who's already been let go to the Dolphins. Even his brother Leo Thompson has just left. It seems like a very fragile environment at the moment, and I think if the Newcastle Knights don't do too well, the Newcastle Knights' new board members aren't going to hesitate to get rid of O'Brien. The Newcastle Knights may be the most disappointing team if this does happen, but I do think on the whole the Sydney Roosters will be the team that disappoints most in 2025. I don't feel like that's necessarily a hot take. I have them missing the 8 because a bit like the Dolphins pick, I think so many teams are improving in 2025 and they're just simply not one of them. But there is no denying the fact the Roosters have become part of the big 3 along with Penrith and along with the Melbourne Storm, and just teams you pretty much just put in the top 4 in the top 8 every single year. I just don't think they have the roster going into 2025, especially without Sam Walker and Brandon Smith, who both will be out for near half the season with their injuries from last year. Especially for Sam Walker, the Roosters have built that team around him for the future by letting go of Keary especially, but also JWH and Joey Manu to make sure Sam Walker is getting his hands on the footy. They have so much salary cap room, the Roosters, and I think they're going to be right back in the mix for 2026 and beyond. You chuck Reece Robson in that mix. I mean, they let go of Terrell May for a reason. I think even Robbo knows it's probably a year to take the foot off the throat in terms of trying to chase for a premiership, because they had 2 years in 2023 and 2024, and I know 2024 didn't end so well, but they've always had one of the best rosters on paper, and they have blown it the last couple of years. So I think it's a year where the Roosters do take a step back before they push on to bigger and better things. The other team I do have disappointing, I didn't know whether to say these guys instead of the Roosters, is the Parramatta Eels. I think they're going to struggle under Jason Ryles early. They are the definition of a one-man team, even more so than the Newcastle Knights. Now they have released Gutho, and you also include Micah Seaver, who's been a cult figure there for so long, and RCG, who did win their Player of the Year last year. It's an interesting time for Jason Ryles, and his name has been thrown up for vacant NRL jobs, it feels like, ever since I've been alive. But hey, maybe he can prove me wrong, and maybe Mitchell Moses can bring what he did in Origin last year to NRL week to week. But unfortunately, I just don't see the Parramatta Eels fitting anywhere into my top 8. I think the best signing is a pretty easy one, at least for me. I think Jerome Luai is going to be the undisputed best signing of season 2025. I think the West Tigers are going to be so much better in 2025 than they have been for pretty much 10 years. I see them making a real strong finals push, especially when they come together at the end of the season. I think Jerome Luai is going to be key. I don't think he's going to have these crazy plays like a DCE, like a Jerome Hughes or a Nathan Cleary, but I do think he is going to just go under the radar in terms of bringing such a winning culture to the Tigers. I think Lockie Galvin will have a great season. I mean, a number 9, a number 6, and number 7 combination that the West Tigers do have is as good as any others in the competition if Luai gets the best out of him, and Galvin is also a freak once again. And I do think Galvin will re-sign. I think the Tigers are going to have to pay a lot and give him a lot, maybe even some player options just to keep Lockie Galvin at the club. But I do think the importance of Luai is going to make sure Lockie Galvin stays at the West Tigers. And I do think they're going to start to build something special there. I just don't have room for them in my top 8 in 2025. But surely they're going to finally come good. This could really blow up in my face, but I still think Jerome Luai is going to be the best signing of 2025, coming off what was a career year where he broke Queensland's heart in their own backyard. My best player of season 2025 is going to go to a Smoky that I don't really feel is a Smoky because he seems to be up there every single year. Originally, I did have Nathan Cleary. I just don't know whether his body can hold week-to-week NRL. I think the Penrith Panthers losing so many more players again is going to open up a lot of Dally M points for some of their best players. I do expect Penrith to be up there again, but Nathan Cleary is more of a finals expert. But one guy we can guarantee to bank a whole lot of points for the Penrith Panthers is going to be Isaiah Yeo, and he is my official pick for the Dally M. Isaiah Yeo, after Game 1 State of Origin last year, there was something lit under that man's behind because he played the best he has ever played, and he's been so good for so long. Isaiah Yeo may just be in the best forward pack of the NRL era, maybe even just straight up as your starting lock. I think Cameron Murray makes it close, but I think there's a gap outside of those top 2 and to the rest. I think Isaiah Yeo is probably the best middle forward in the entire NRL. And without James Fisher-Harris, that bloke is going to be playing 80 minutes every single week. I think he already does. He's going to be ball playing even more without Luai. Mitch Kenny at number 9 has a simple job to do. It's going to be up to Isaiah Yeo to control that middle of the field and also help out Blaze Talagi. So I think with Isaiah Yeo showing what he's already done in previous years on the Dally M leaderboard, if he can stay fit and healthy, and if Nathan Cleary does go down with an injury again, it's going to be up to him to keep them in the top 4 to have a chance of winning the premiership. So Isaiah Yeo is my pick for the Dally M. Now for the moment you beautiful bastards have all been waiting for. It's time for my top 8. If I didn't mention your team, then I will say sorry, but I guess they just weren't my time. Except for you, the Waz, I love you. But in my top 8, I have in 8th place the Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs. I think the Doggies are that team that improved so much last year. It's very easy to see them falling out of the 8. But unlike teams in the past where it's been pretty much just superstars having incredible years, the Dogs built last year on the back of defense and hard work, and I think that can carry over into building a strong winning culture. In 7th, I have the South Sydney Rabbitohs returning to finals football. Look at what Wayne has done with the Dolphins. That man still got it. When you throw in the South Sydney Rabbitohs roster, I think they're more than capable of having a strong push. I don't think they're going to start the season too hot, but come really strong at the end of the season once they figure out their spine, and I think their forward pack is really underrated going into 2025. In 6th place, I have the North Queensland Cowboys. At one point, I had the North Queensland Cowboys in my Newcastle Knights position, but after the season Tom Dearden just had, I think they're going to be somewhere in the mix, and also this is the year they have to push with them losing Reece Robson next year. Finishing off the bottom part of my top 8, I do have the Cronulla Sharks that may be a step back, but I do think Craig Fitzgibbon is going to learn and try to pace the Cronulla Sharks a bit better and have them peaking into finals footy. Maybe that overcomplicates it and gets them out of the top 4, but I had to make room for someone. In 4th place, I have the Brisbane Broncos. If Michael Maguire is ever going to work at the Brisbane Broncos, it's going to be this first year, and this is the year for the Broncos to strike. This will be the best roster Madge ever has while he is at the Broncos. Yes, they may get better performances out of guys like Reece Walsh, Payne Haas, Ezra Mam in future years, but he's got all of his weapons there at the moment in Cobbo and Staggs, who are probably both going to be gone. You still got Ben Hunt to keep it afloat, and you're only missing Ezra Mam for the first, third of the season. You can go check out my video I've already made on that. In a 3rd place, I have the mighty Manly Warringah Seagulls. This is my predictions video, so if you think I'm biased, then you can go. It may be the final year for DCE, which may mean it's the final year for this Manly core, and literally like every predictions video that has been made for the past couple years, it feels like it's turbo or bust. You throw DCE in that too, the big dogs have to be fit, but when they've been fit, Manly have been a team that can consistently beat the best in the competition and also lose to the worst teams in the competition, which is actually quite funny. They don't have a great forward pack, but if they can get the best out of guys like Baseka and Olakau'atu, as long as Jake Trbojevic, DCE, Tommy Turbo, Luke Brooks, those guys stay fit, along with one of the most electrifying and deepest backlines in the competition, Manly have just got too much strike to not be a team that has too much class for 75% of the entire competition. And then, of course, we've got the top 2, the Penrith Panthers and the Melbourne Storm. And I hate myself for saying it, but yeah, I've got those 2 teams in the grand final again. And winning the 2025 NRL Premiership, I do have the Melbourne Storm. I think Penrith will make it close because they are the best finals footy side of the modern era. Statistically, Nathan Cleary is the best finals footy player ever, which includes the 11-in-a-row Dragons side, which is honestly some insane rugby league crack. I would really hate for this to happen, even from just a neutral NRL fan's point of view. As much as I love success, we need something different, but I just can't see it. And honestly, while Penrith will throw up a great challenge, I have the Melbourne Storm winning the premiership, and there's been zero doubt in my mind about that. Even before the 2024 grand final, I thought the Melbourne Storm will coast in 2025 to the premiership and the minor premiership. I think they do the double with ease because they play without half their spine in 2024 and still dominated the regular season. And you could argue if they had Nass in that grand final, then they make it a lot closer than it looks on paper. You have Jerome Hughes, who is out and away the second best halfback in the NRL. You've got Cameron Munster, who missed so much last year, and he's the best big game player in the entire competition. Same with Ryan Papenhuyzen, and he missed half of last year. Harry Grant is only going to get better because people forget he is so young. They have the best spine in the NRL, now with Luai moving on from the Penrith Panthers, and they also have the second best spine in the NRL with guys like Wishart, with guys like Pezzett, with Falongo, who is such a good up-and-coming star. The Melbourne Storm literally almost moved on Pappenhausen to keep him. And for all the talk about their forward pack being a weak point, if Nass or Josh King or Katoa go down, then maybe they're in a bit of strife. But they've also got Stefano coming to the club, who has had all the raps. I'm yet to see it, but he's already played State of Origin. So if you give him Craig Bellamy, the best play developer in the NRL ever, then they're going to cook. And the Melbourne Storm, I think, unfortunately, are going to have a 2017-like season. This was the easiest prediction for me to write, which is honestly quite sad. But they have the best spine. They have one of the best forward packs. They have an incredible backline that is also consistent, which is so hard to find it in the modern NRL. And they've also got the best backup, along with the greatest coach, potentially, of all time. It's not what I want to happen by a long shot, but might just be the easiest NRL season to predict ever, and I wish I was joking in saying that. But the Melbourne Storm are my predicted premiers for 2025. I think they will dominate this NRL season. But ladies and gentlemen, let me know, who do you think wins the NRL premiership in that comment section down below. Smash that like button. Subscribe if you haven't yet already. Please stick around, because the content this year is going to bang.